Hey guys, I recorded this whole podcast, but I wanted to put this all the way at the beginning. I want to be the number one rated DJ podcast on iTunes. I need to beat 262 5-star likes by my calculation of the number one, at this point, 5-star podcast on iTunes. So I'm at 59 ratings of 5 stars. I need to get to over 260, right? If this podcast has served you, if you enjoy it, if you've mentioned it to other DJs, give me a 5-star rating in iTunes. Leave your review. If you have to comment, I don't know how any of this shit works, but if you have to leave a comment, leave your Instagram handle. I see the top 3 comments. I'll follow anybody that leaves a 5-star review and leaves their Instagram handle. I appreciate it. I definitely have set this goal just arbitrarily because I want to be the number one DJ podcast on iTunes. Why not, right? I'm obviously still going to do podcasts after we make it to this metric, but I thought it would be kind of a cool little quest to try to figure if we can make this happen. So again, if you enjoy this podcast, please rate it 5 stars. Obviously subscribe, and I appreciate every one of you sending me messages, screenshots of you listening to this. Now let's get into the podcast. This is My Favorite DJ, the podcast. I want you to picture a map of the United States in your mind. If you're not driving, close your eyes, picture a map of the United States. I want you to picture Miami on the map. Then draw a line from Miami to Las Vegas. Then from Las Vegas to San Francisco. From San Francisco back to Las Vegas. Las Vegas to Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale to Boston. Boston to Dallas. Dallas to Miami. Miami to the Dominican Republic. Well, not technically not in the United States, but a world map, the northern hemisphere of the Western world. Dominican Republic to Los Angeles. Los Angeles to Las Vegas. Las Vegas to New York. New York to New Jersey. That was my June 2017, which was leading up to my July 2017, which I think was the busiest 30 days that I've had in recent memory. And this is not scientific, but it's just my guess. So this is the first day of July happened when I was in New Jersey. Now, same map, New Jersey to Las Vegas to Miami, Miami to Rhode Island to Houston, Houston to LA, LA to San Francisco to Ohio, Ohio to Atlantic City to New York, New York to Las Vegas to Dallas, back to Las Vegas, to Chicago, back to Vegas. That was July of 2017. And the reason why I bring that up is actually because I've been looking at my calendar now, and my March and April are pretty much rivaling that. So this year in March, I had Fort Lauderdale to San Francisco, Vegas, Columbus, Ohio, Miami, Vegas, LA, Fort Lauderdale, Charleston, Vegas, Miami, Dominican Republic, Atlantic City, Vegas, Miami, Fort Myers, Vegas, and I was supposed to do a gig that I turned down just because the logistics were a nightmare. Calgary, Canada, Bespoke, what up, to Houston, to Vegas, to Charlotte, to Vegas, to Boston. That's March and April 2018. So why am I bringing all that up? I figure now is as good a time as any to kind of give a little bit of a backstory to how I got here. How did I get a calendar that sounds like a flight attendant or potentially a traveling salesman, which I guess I kind of am that, a traveling music salesman. I sell a good time to nightclubs, maybe. I don't know. So here's my story. When I was 14 years old, I had a little bit of birthday money. My cousin, Franco, was really into breakdancing, DJing. He was way more hip than I was at that age. And he was up on a lot of stuff that I thought was really cool, but I didn't really know anything about. I never really gravitated towards the MTVs, the VH1s of the world, and I didn't have a good concept in my mind as to what was cool. But Franco was always a cool kid, like a popular kid in school, as far as my 14-year-old perception of my cousin, right? So he was into DJing, and he was into breakdancing, and I had a little bit of money from my 14th birthday. And just as an aside here, I don't remember if it was 13 or 14, but I want to say it was 14, because I'm pretty sure it was 8th grade going into 9th grade. So I took this little bit of money, and my choices were to either get a go-kart or buy a turntable and a mixer. Now, I'm lucky, and I'm glad that I bought a turntable and a mixer, because had I been able to buy a go-kart with the little bit of money I had, it would have been a pretty shitty go-kart, and I would probably be selling insurance right now. But thankfully, I decided to buy a turntable and a mixer, and that's what I did. I actually used eBay to do so, which was like my first eBay purchase. I was really worried because I was not just a young lad, but also new on eBay, and I think it was my first purchase. But nonetheless, the dude came through, and I bought a Gemini belt drive turntable. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I think the model was a DD50 turntable. It was a belt drive. It came with 2 records. It was Ja Rule, Holla Holla, and a Jizza record from Wu-Tang. Breaka Breaka 1-9. I don't remember exactly what was on the B side of each one, but I think those were the records. And got to my house, and I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I had no idea how to hook up a turntable to the mixer. The mixer was dog shit. It was like a pyramid mixer with needle readouts. Like it didn't even have LEDs. And I just hooked this stuff up, and I was like, okay, now what? Oh, wait, I need speakers. So I basically just on a whim decided to buy a kit, a DJ starter kit, I guess at the time, off of eBay. And from there, I just played those 2 records over and over and over. And then I said, well, I guess I'd just get more records and figure this out. And that's actually why I'm left-hand dominant, is because I spent maybe the first 3 or 4 years of my DJ inception, of my DJ beginnings, with one turntable, and it was on the left side. So even though I'm right-hand dominant in life when it comes to DJing, I am better on my left side because of that reason. So I slowly began to learn and dive deeper into the world of DJing because it started to interest me. I had really no interest before that. It just so happened that I got lucky and made a decision to purchase something that would shape the rest of my life. And I had no idea that that would happen at the time, but that's what ended up happening. So I started potentially, I don't remember exactly how my research went about because the internet was still kind of shitty. I mean, it was obviously this was in the 2000s, so it wasn't that bad, but it wasn't what it is now. I think I was using like Ask Jeeves and Yahoo. We were definitely off of AOL at the time already, but I started Googling like how to DJ battles, things like that, and I don't remember if YouTube was even a thing, but there was like DJ battle videos. Somehow we got a hold of it, and holy shit, that blew my mind, man. When I watched how DJs were flipping records, like obviously real vinyl, and they would play one after another. Some of them would set up one record on top of the other so they wouldn't have to like take it off and then have to grab another one. They would already have all their vinyl in order stacked on top of each other on the turntable. And then they'd pull one out, and then the other one would just be resting there already so they could just drop the needle and go. It was so cool. I had no idea what any of the scratches were, no idea how to juggle. All I knew was that what I was watching interested me. So I kept watching it, and I tried to find more DJ videos. And that's how I basically became exposed to DJ craze. I think him being from Miami kind of helped the acquisition of DJ videos, because this was just after, not just after, but a couple of years after his three-peat at the DMC, where he won 3 times in a row. And I think the rumor was, I don't even know if it was real, but I think the rumor was like the DMC told him, look, just don't compete anymore. You're just going to win every time. Just let somebody else win. Something like that, if I remember correctly. So me and my cousin were able to get like DJ videos, and we'd practice together, and it was a great time. I remember after school, my friends would come over, hop on AOL Instant Messenger, and I would play records for them. And I actually learned that you could hook up a CD player, like a portable CD player, to the mixer through a 1/8 inch to RCA hookup. So I would play a CD and then mix with a record, and then I'd turn and be like, hey, how was that? My friends would be like, nah, that was dog shit. Don't do that. That sounded like ass. And then I'd try again and again and again. And basically I would DJ for them while they were talking to girls on AOL Instant Messenger after high school. And slowly I started to learn more about the DJ equipment available, because I was just a novice. I had no idea. At the time, there were no CDJs. At the time, there were dual deck CD players, which basically were like VCRs with 2 CD decks that you would open one side and then open the other side. You could load CDs up. So people were starting to pirate music on Napster, on LimeWire. So it was a lot easier to get music on CDs than it was to get on vinyl. And even though I had turntables and that's how you DJ'd, I thought, okay, if I can get a dual CD player, then I don't have to find all of these records at the vinyl store, because a lot of times either I'm late, I'm not up on when the vinyl's going to come in, the owner's going to hold it for his buddies, whatever the case might be. So the new stuff that I'm going to need, and maybe some of the old stuff that is just a must play, is not going to be around. So it's easier just to get CD players and play it off that. Because my idea was, I mean, I don't even know what my idea was. Play for, I don't know, people, birthday parties. I didn't know what the ceiling was or what the scope of being a DJ was at all at the time. This was just trial by fire, learning by experience. So after a few years, I had 2 turntables and a dual deck CD player. And I was able to start doing like birthday parties, because I told my friends in high school, whenever they said, oh, it's my birthday on Saturday, come to my party, I'd be like, oh, do you need a DJ? At the time, me, my mom, and my brother and my grandma were living in a 2-bedroom apartment in Miami, so it was kind of cramped. But basically, my mom, being the saint that she is, let me turn the whole living room into my DJ practice lab. So a whole section of it had my coffin with my speakers and my mixer, my turntables, and that's where I would practice. And if there was someone in the house, this was after school, while she was at work. If there was someone in the house, I'd have to practice in headphones, even though I was not very helpful. That's just what would have to happen. So I slowly started to be comfortable enough, even though I sucked ass, obviously, as a DJ at the time. I slowly became more comfortable telling people that that's what I did. So when they would have birthday parties, or when they were going to throw a party in high school, they were like, yo, I need a DJ. So somehow I got connected with friends, promoters, that would do their own little house parties. So they'd make flyers, they would promote at all the different high schools, charge like $5 entrance fee, and then they'd have a party, and then they'd sell liquor, allegedly, at one of the corners of the house, or at a bar, a makeshift bar, and then it would just be a high school party. It would be like a big thing, and people would drive there from everywhere. And I didn't always get to DJ those, but I watched other DJs DJ that, and it was like, that was like the top level at the time. The top level of high school was having your own speakers, your own DJ equipment, a truck or a van or an SUV that your parents lent you, obviously, or that you were lucky enough to be able to have because your parents had loot and they bought you a car. And you got yourself to this house party and you played records, and also the records. You had a bunch of records and you could play a house party. And that's what I wanted to do. I'm like, dude, I got to play these house parties. This is so much fun. So I slowly started gathering all of that equipment to specifically DJ house parties. And I did. I DJ'd a bunch of house parties, but it was never good, obviously. And I was always doing it either for free or for, I don't know, transportation. I think it was mostly, if not always, for free. The first time I ever played was at a banquet hall that my friend Jeff had rented out, and he was charging admission at the door, and there was like maybe alcohol being sold. I don't remember exactly, most likely, maybe, allegedly. And I was the first guy to open, and I just played a bunch of CDs. I had no idea what I was doing, probably not even mixing, just stopping and starting. But that night I got exposed to real DJs that were playing music and they were mixing, and I was like, oh, that's what has to happen. That was the first gig I ever played. So I just stored it in my memory bank, and I'm like, okay, I have to sound like these guys. I was also lucky enough to listen to a lot of Power 96, which is the radio station in Miami that had like the illest DJs at the time, which were DJ Def, DJ Zog. I think Tony Tone would do stuff on there. And those were guys that I would listen to, and I would record their mix shows. I had like a cassette player, radio, and whenever they would mix, I would record it on a cassette and then just play it back and try to figure out what the hell they were doing, because I had no idea. So I had to envision with one turntable how to do what they were doing sonically without a visual representation of it in front of me. But I was actually very fortunate that they were really good DJs, because if you put me in a market where there's dog shit DJs and I never understand how to properly play a radio show or a nightclub, then I probably wouldn't be here. So once I am about 18 years old, the promoters that did house parties basically got approached by club promoters from South Beach. South Beach was really starting to gain steam, and I think it had already, but it was like exploding beyond. It was bursting at the seams in regards to popularity. So there was a bunch of nightclubs opening that were off the A-list, if you will. They were just like, they were catching the spill out from all the people that didn't have the right clothes or enough money to go into the prime clubs. There was enough smaller clubs to fill up because these people couldn't get in because of lines or whatever the reason. So my friends that threw house parties had such a network put together that nightclub owners approached them and said, hey, you can pull 500 kids to a house party. Can you put 200 people, 150 people, 100 people of quality that are of age or have an ID that says they are of age, maybe, in my nightclub? And that was my in. That's how I went to my first club, because my promoter friends started doing nightclubs. And even though I didn't always get to DJ, I would go and I'd listen to club DJs. I'd listen to whoever was DJing at the time and hope, wish, pray, look up and be like, oh, one day that's going to be me. The problem was also that I didn't have the money to buy all the records that I needed to play music for a whole nightclub or for a whole night. So that put me at a deficit in regards to how much I could push for myself to DJ these places, because it just wouldn't be right. I'd run out of records. So I didn't want to go over my head and say, no, I can play the night, and have 3 hours where I have to replay my entire crate like 2 times because there's just not enough music. I didn't have it. It was just like, you had what you had, and if you didn't have it, you couldn't download it. You couldn't play it off of a computer. It just didn't work that way. So I was lucky enough to land a gig at this club called Reserved, and the 2 dudes that owned the club put me on, and I think I was 18 at the time. They told me, we'll pay you like, $60, $80, and play it for the whole night. And they would just grab tourists off the street, put a wristband on them, be like, oh yeah, go inside, drink. There were so many people cruising South Beach at the time. By the way, that club turned into like a pet shop, and now it's just closed. But at the time, there was like 4, 5, 6 clubs next to each other on this street. So there was so many tourists walking, they would just put a band on them and be like, oh, you drink for free, and toss them in the club. It was a fun time. I'm not going to lie. It was a pretty fun time. And I finally had enough music to play a whole night. And that's what I did. I just played at that spot until probably about a year and a half. And I don't know if it was good or not at this point. It probably wasn't. But it was good enough because it was cheap enough. And there were so many other clubs that it mattered, but it didn't, because people would come in. And as long as I was playing music, they were like, South Beach, Miami, yeah, booze, and they'd get hammered, and they, quote unquote, would have a good night, regardless of what was being played. Who knows if it could have been a lot better. But the owner of that club ended up being the marketing director for a large conglomerate on South Beach. So it just happened to be that I was at the right club, because if I was at any other club, who knows? Now, at the same time, I was attempting to play other clubs that were in the area, because this was only, let's say, a Friday gig or a Saturday gig. So there was always a Thursday or Sunday, or, there was a lot of other parties and other nightclubs in the area that I could potentially go to and play. So I was playing other spots also, and also in downtown. But my primary was that one, because I don't know why I just gravitated towards that club. The owners were fantastic. They treated me really nice. And it was like on South Beach. I think that's what it was. Just the location of it was like, oh man, I'm playing on South Beach. So the club owner ends up being the marketing director or marketing something or other for a large conglomerate of nightclubs. And one day he approaches me and he's like, hey, they need a DJ in the back room of this big mega club. Do you want to do it? I'm like, yeah, of course. That was like, holy shit, I'm going to play at this massive club. This is amazing. I sounded like Christopher Walken there for a second. That's how excited I am still, so many years after. Oh my God, I get to play at this club. It's so amazing. So I remember I played, and they paid me like 3 times the amount of money I was making at the other club. They were like, yeah, the rate's $250. I was like, what? $250 for one night of work? That's like what I would make in 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So I was like, damn, dude, I better do a good job, because I need to keep this gig. So I played the gig. It was probably shitty. I don't remember. I don't have any mixes from that era saved. I don't even think that I had a way to record them, because I was still playing on vinyl. I didn't have a computer at the time. But it was slowly creeping up that I was going to make the transition soon, because it was just time. I had seen people play on the computer, but I just didn't get it. And I was like, why would I do that? I have my records right here. So I played the back room, and I guess it wasn't terrible to where they didn't want me back. I guess my skill matched the price they were paying. And I want to say that this is probably all based on the fact that when I started DJing, I didn't want to be a shitty DJ, because I had a reference point, which were these DJ battle tapes. I was looking up to the best technical DJs on the planet at the time. Not just on tape, but also on radio. To me, they were the best in the world. I was like, these guys are amazing. And they were. It was really, really, really good. So I had these heroes to look up to listen to. And I didn't want to be less than them, because I thought, if they have a position in this world, I need to be better to have a higher position. That's how my brain worked. And hopefully that's how your brain works, right? If you want to succeed in any industry, I would imagine that's the best way to do it. So they gave me the opportunity in the back room. They had me coming back. And then from there, what happened was I kind of parlayed that clout of being at that massive club, even though it was the back room, even though sometimes we didn't even open, into playing other spots. So be like, yeah, I'm the resident at blah, blah, blah. They'd be like, oh shit, really cool, man. Why don't you come over here and play on, a Friday? Or so any night that I had open, I would fill in just by using that place as my reference point. Because if that place was allowing me to work, then I must be good enough. That's kind of how it worked. So I started playing clubs here and there throughout Miami. And something just flashed in my brain. I should make a note of this, that when I was playing this back room, and I played it for a long time, maybe like 3 years, and thankfully not at that $250 rate, because was it $200? No, it was $250. And not at that rate, because I slowly learned how to maneuver and maybe ask for a little bit more here or there, depending on X, Y, or Z reasons. But I would set goals for myself when I was playing in this back room. So when I had I would play from the whole night, basically from 11 to 5 a.m., 4:30, 4:45. If we opened, we opened, because that club was so popular that the main room filled up, and I was catching all the people that couldn't get into the main room into my room. So I was playing 6-hour sets, and with records. So I had to figure it out. I think I had like 2 big crates and 1 small crate for reggae and like offbeat shit. Anyway, I set goals for myself every night. Like today, I'm going to scratch on beat and drop the record on beat and mix out every time I mix a record. So then the whole night I would practice. Thankfully, there was people in front of me. So if it didn't sound good, if it wasn't a good transition, or if I failed, if I fucked up, then I would feel terrible. And I hate that feeling. I hate the feeling of messing up a lot. Like, I'll mix like 200 records in a full night, just as an example. If I fuck up like 3 times, 4 times, I'm so mad at myself. I'm so upset. I'm like, damn it. I almost had it flawless. Almost an A+. Now I got to settle for like a B-. I hate messing up. So that's what I would do, set goals for myself. Today I'm scratching on beat, dropping it on beat, mixing it on beat. Today I'm not going to mess up one mix. And a reminder, I was playing on vinyl when I first started there. So there was no visual waves. It was all mixing acoustically with my ears and the monitors. And I feel weird having to explain this, but if you don't know what that means, it means that you preview the song you're about to mix in the headphones, and then you listen to the monitors because they're giving you a true reflection of what the current song is, and you match them together with your ears, not visually, or with BPM readouts, which can be done. I hope I'm not blowing any brains out there if you're a DJ, because this is how we always used to mix sonically with our ears. So maybe some nights I set the goal to not mess up one mix. And when I messed up one mix, I was like, oh no, now I got to try again. So then the next time I was there, all right, today the goal is not mess up one mix. And until I completed that task or that goal, I wouldn't go on to the next one. And I had so many nights to play there that I basically just set goals for myself every night. And that's how I feel like I really progressed as a DJ. The club conglomerate that I worked for had ambitions to acquire more nightclubs and open more spaces. So at the time I was in college, and I did this math problem that I'm about to do now, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but I imagine it went something like this, because it was hard working nights till 5 a.m. Some nights it was like weekdays, and then having to go to college the next day at 10 a.m. or whatever time I would pick these classes. Plus, I never wanted to go to college. I didn't like school. I never liked school. I thought it was a waste of time. To me, I understand the system. The system is pay to play. Pay us for this paper that says that you did a good job so you can get a good job. But I didn't want to play that game. So I had to find something else. So that being said, I had to explain to my mom, who had basically chaperoned me to every house party, nightclub, when I didn't have a car and waited outside, or woke up at all ungodly hours to come pick me up. I had to explain to her why I was going to stop going to college. And her opinion was important because I didn't want to let her down. So what I did was a math problem. I thought, if I'm in the back room and I'm making $250, the main room being 3 times the size of this room in regards to how many people it holds, I'm going to guess the DJ in the main room makes $750. If I can do that 3 nights a week, that's $2,250. It doesn't have to be at this club. It could be at any club in Miami, on the beach, anywhere. That's just what I guessed, my ballpark figure to headlining DJ at the time. They were making way more than that, but this is what my guess was. So let's round that down. $2,000 a week. I thought, okay, if I make $2,000 a week and I can do that consistently every week, I can make $8,000 in a month. If I can make that in a month, then a year, I can make $96,000 being the main room DJ. That's how my brain worked. Now, obviously, these numbers were fiction. They were just made up in my head. They were just guesses in regards to the business. I had no clue. I had no idea, but this was my quote-unquote proposal to present to my mom, and at the same time, a goal at least for me to work towards, which was main room DJ, regardless of what I was going to be paid. Which actually I wasn't that far off in regards to main room DJing. What I actually got paid wasn't that far from that. So I said to my mom, look, Mom, I could do 4 years at a college and I don't want to be there. I don't like going to school. And they're going to tell me what I need to learn, when I need to learn it, and they're going to test me based upon my memory. It doesn't mean that I'm learning anything. My mom's a nurse, by the way, so she went to school, and not just in our country, in Argentina, but here in the States. She also basically, as a brand new citizen, learned how to speak medical terms and somehow passed and became an RN in the States. Incredible, by the way. Her English is terrible. Anyway, she needed a reason why I was going to quit college. So I said, look, if I make it to that main room, I can make close to $100,000 a year. What job is going to pay me that with a 4-year bachelor's after I've wasted 4 years of life, in my opinion, wasting 4 years of life at a college? I'm going to come out and start at what, 40,000? If I'm lucky, 45 grand. It's like, I can already start at double that. All I got to do is work at this and focus on this. She was like, look, I just want you to have a plan B. If this doesn't work for you, I want you to have something else to fall back on. And I was like, I know, I understand, but I'm going to go hard at this. And that's what I did. I just went hard at trying to be a main room DJ. And eventually, through one lucky break or another, I was able to make it to that main room. Maybe it had to do with the fact that I was a decent DJ, but also I think the price point, I came at such a low price point and I had no idea about the business at the time. So I couldn't say to them, hey, pay me more because you guys are paying these other people like so much more money. Why can't I get that? Right? But I mean, if I was the club owner, I would have said, hey, dude, what are you doing different? We were paying you $250. You were happy a week ago. What's wrong now? Right? So through some lucky breaks, I was able to make it to the main room. And let me mention that there was a Wednesday night party at this club that I was playing at that was like the hottest party on the beach. It was the best party. And I really wanted to play there, even though I might have been a little too hip-hop at the time for that spot. Something else just flashed in my brain. I remember when I was playing one of the South Beach clubs, this place called, it doesn't exist anymore, I don't think it matters, Union Lounge. I had friends there that were DJs and promoters. And I always dressed however I felt. Like I didn't necessarily follow trends by any means. And I was really into rock music, and I might have been dressing a little bit rock and roll at the time. I'm trying to remember what I was wearing, but probably like just some like high socks, some Chuck Taylors, some shorts, and like not a tight shirt, but just like not a loose Mitchell and Ness or whatever they're called, like jersey that everyone was rocking, and big stupid hats and like Air Force Ones. If you were a hip hop DJ, you had to wear that shit, and I was like, dude, that's lame. I'm not wearing that. So my friends, quote unquote friends, were like making fun of me. They were just like, yo, you dress like a rocker, but you DJ hip hop. That's so dumb, you idiot. And they were laughing at me. I'm not going to name them, but it's funny. That just flashed in my brain. So I make it to the main room. And this Wednesday night party, I really want to play it. So I start going every Wednesday, and I literally write down what the DJ's playing and what time he's playing it at. Because in my head, I'm like, if I can't play with him, I'm taking his job. And I wasn't going to do the same shit he was doing, but I was trying to learn the flow of the night. I didn't want to have to be there to like go over the set. So I wanted to write everything down and then go home and just like study it and look at it and be like, okay, close my eyes and visualize the nightclub, visualize the time of night, visualize how many people are in there, visualize what he's playing, when he's transitioning out of it, how he's mixing, when he's going to peak the night, when he's playing what. And I wanted that reference point, so I would write down all of these things. I wasn't like trying to bite and swagger jack, but I was trying to learn. So eventually I bugged them enough and I went enough that they gave me a shot. It wasn't that good, but thankfully the night was, that at the time there was a lot of hip hop coming out, and the DJ that was there on Wednesdays didn't have that strength. Like he played a lot of, I guess if you know what I'm talking about, he played a lot of international music and he played some house music, but not a lot of hip hop. And I was like that kind of fit. I just fit in that night. Like, okay, I'm not going to play the whole night, but just give me like 30 minutes in between your house and international sets. And let me just play a little bit of the hip hop stuff. And then obviously I'm going to be a subordinate to you. It was his night. He was the resident. He was making bank and I was making way less, but it was my in. I got my main room shot and I would just alternate with this DJ who was, I was very respectful. I would never burn. I would listen to him if he was like, yo, I think that you should do this or do that. I was like, 100%, whatever you want. It's your night. I'm just here to supply a little bit of hip hop flavor to it and get paid very little. So it was his night. That's how it worked. Eventually I ended up kind of taking over that night after he was gone because just music evolves. And he was a good DJ for the moment, but he never evolved with it. And that's a problem for any DJ at any time. And I basically took over that and I was able to work the other nightclubs that this conglomerate was expanding into. And they at one point had like 6 nightclubs. So now we're probably like, I want to say when I'm around 22, 23, all of this is happening. And I made one of the best investments ever, which was I actually, as another aside, sorry, my brain's everywhere, but this is just, it's such a complicated and long story that I want to hit all the points. I bought my first apartment when I was 22 and I had no clue what I was doing. My mom's like, are you sure you can afford this? And they were just handing out loans at the time. I was like, yeah, look, I'm making all this money. Like I finally made it to the main room and I'm playing these other clubs. It's like, I can do it. I can do it. And so my mom co-signed for me, right? Here's the problem with that. I didn't know what property taxes were. I didn't know what an association fee was. I didn't know so many things. I was just blindly pissing into the wind, just like, yeah, I can afford it. Just give me the night. Well, we don't have to pay anything and I get an apartment? Yeah, sounds right. Give it to me. So that was another crash course. And I want to do another podcast in regards to investing. And I'm probably not the best for it because I'm not like an institutional investor or somebody that has a bunch of money anyway. So I definitely don't want to speak on it. I'm going to try to find, I have 2 people in mind that we can bring on the podcast and just talk about investments and sound money managing in today's world. So maybe other people don't have to learn trial by fire like I did. So 23, 24, the conglomerate starts expanding. I was able to buy my first apartment and now I'm just hammering away. Now I feel like I have the shape that I'm going to be the rest of my career. And I'm just hammering, working 4, 5, 6 nights a week. Bang, 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 banging them out every night. I wasn't necessarily playing every night 11 to 5, but if I was, I didn't give a shit. I'm like, yo, I quit college. I have to prove everybody wrong. So many people were saying, you can't be a DJ as a career. So many people told me that. Oh, what do you mean? You're going to play music? You're just going to be a DJ? I'm like, yeah, I did the math. That was my thing. I was like, yeah, no, I did math. It's cool. I can do it. They just didn't get it. The problem is, if I would have let them influence me, I'd probably been like, oh man, maybe they're right. Maybe I can't. Thankfully, I didn't. And those same people in the future, when I had a decent car and I had an apartment, they were the ones that would whisper, oh, I'm pretty sure he's a drug dealer. So you can never win with that kind of person. The people that will try to knock you down when you're trying to work your way up, if they can't convince you to stop, if they can't make you fail on your own by self-destruction, then once you actually make it, they're not going to be happy for you. They're still going to talk shit, which is why you should never listen to anybody that doesn't help you. And now I feel like the more you know, little display from NBC should go up. So, all right, back to the story. I'm playing 4 or 5 nights a week. Thankfully, the conglomerate that I'm working for has multiple nightclubs. One of the most heart-wrenching moments of my career was when the guy that put me on, the club owner turned marketing director, basically lost his position with the nightclub. There was a big falling out, and there was a big problem. And he went to a rival nightclub, and he called me, and he's like, "Hey, I want you to know that I'm not gonna hold it against you if you stay, but I would really like it if you came." And then I got another, and I was like, look, man, I'll think about it. And I got another call from one of the dudes, one of the higher ups at the club, the conglomerate I was working for. And he was like, hey, look, if you want to stay, we will 100% have you. So I was really torn, man, because this guy had put me on. This guy was the guy that made me. He's the one that opened the doors. He had the golden key. He didn't even know it. Well, maybe he did, but I don't know. I felt so horrendous because I didn't go with him. I didn't go to the rival club. I saw like 4, 5, 6 nightclubs, potential of more, with this current conglomerate that I'm with, versus one club that's the competition and my friend, the guy that put me on. And I had to make the difficult decision of telling him, look, I can't go. I can't, because there's just so much opportunity over here. Like, my loyalty is to you, obviously, but at the same time, I have to make the right decision for my career and for my bills. Because if I would have gone 6 or 8 months later when that fell apart and he stopped working there and that club went under, the competition went under, I would have been out of a job. And maybe they would have hired me back at this conglomerate. And if they did, they probably would have been like, well, you're stuck back at the first level, so you're back at 250. Maybe they would have done that. Maybe they wouldn't have had me back at all. The point is, when that decision came down, I chose to stay with the conglomerate, with the large entity that owned multiple nightclubs. And it was real hard, man. And I think about that from time to time. And I always feel like I backstabbed the guy that put me on. In retrospect, it was the right business decision. But in my heart, I'm just like, damn it, man. There was no right decision. So I'm working multiple nights a week at some of the best nightclubs on South Beach. And I have no clue that there is the availability and possibility to travel outside of your market in your city and your nightclubs to play in other places. I had no idea. To me, it was like, oh, this is top of the food chain, baby. Made it. I'm playing 4, 5, 6 nights a week, making decent money. I have my own place. I have a nice car. I do whatever I want. Rock and roll lifestyle. Then at one of the nightclubs that I would be a resident at, by the way, another aside here, there was never schedules printed. Like, I know if you're one of the DJs that worked with me once they started doing this, or once other places started doing this, like they started emailing schedules, like what DJ would play where on what day. That never happened before. Like, if you were the Wednesday resident, you just knew to show up every Wednesday, the end. And if they had a guest DJ, they'd tell you when you get there, yo, there's a guest DJ, you're only opening tonight, so heads up. And you'd be like, okay, cool, that's no problem. I'm just going to open. And then there'd be the guest DJ or the whatever performance or whatever the hell they had going on. You'd find out the night of. But the point was that you would always go because you were the Wednesday resident, period. So they just knew. You never talked to anybody. You just showed up because that was your night. So one night I show up to work and they're like, hey, we have a guest DJ from this other city and he's going to play tonight. And I was like, okay, word. And that was like my first taste of you can play in another city if you're a DJ. So the reason why, I found this out later, but the reason why this DJ had come in was because my conglomerate, the conglomerate that I worked for, was going to open up a club in the city that dude was in. So they were kind of like going to start, I don't know, cross-promoting / bringing in DJs to the Miami market so they could have DJs in that market. So I was just in awe, right? Like this guy came in and he played a bunch of stuff. Like he didn't know the room that well, so like it didn't go that well. And I knew the room. It was like a lot harder back then because I think markets were more individual than they are now. But point being, what happened that night opened my eyes and I was just like, whoa. So I can like leave my market and go play in other places. And that was the moment that I started looking for a way to do that. I had never seen that. And he was the first of a couple DJs that came in from this other market, specifically because the club was going to open in that market and needed DJs to play that club. I began searching for management, and I started first with the people I knew. I would ask the guys that were at the nightclubs in Miami, like, hey, do you know how to get me to play music in other cities? And a lot of times they'd be like, no idea. Like nobody knew. So I basically Googled or looked up rather, I don't know what search engine I used, all of the DJ management companies I had heard of. And I looked at all the rosters, I looked at everything, and I was like, oh man, I definitely want to go on that one. So I sent an email. After doing a lot of local search and like trying to figure out like how the hell I could get somebody to book me out of town, I just emailed this management. And this was like MySpace days. So I had a MySpace up. I didn't have like a Facebook fan page. I think Twitter was kind of starting, but not really like too popular. And Instagram wasn't a thing yet, I believe. I think it came around 2012 or something like that, 2011. But this was a little bit before that. So I emailed this management company, and it bounces to a Lewis Rich. And I believe the reply was, we'll get back to you. I was like, okay. So I continued my search, and I just looked around. And now here's the thing. This is another lucky break that helped make my career. Miami was so hot at the time that I was getting business cards and I was getting introductions to a lot of people from all over the world. People were coming from everywhere to party in Miami. And I think part of the reason was because there was a lot of rich people coming in to buy property and real estate. This was when a little bit after the crash, I want to say. So property was cheap. There was a lot of people coming in and like checking out how Miami nightclubs worked. Maybe they were going to start their own nightclubs in their respective markets. Point is, I was meeting a lot of people that had the availability to potentially book me out of town. I just had no clue how to go about that. So a few months after my search began, which was a few months after the first time I had ever seen a DJ from out of town come in, I get an email from Lewis Rich from a different email address. It didn't have the @ management agency. It was just @ something else. And he goes, hey man, if you want to work, I'm ready to do it. And I was like, yeah, I'll get back to you. I mean, I was set, dude. I was playing Miami like 5 nights a week, 6 nights a week, 4 nights on a soft week. But I still wanted to get out of town. I still wanted to like see what the hell there was outside of my market, right? At this point, social media is really starting to pick up, and NAM's doing his thing, I believe, at the Palms at the time, and there's like a lot of stuff that I was exposed to that I was like, oh shit, there's like dope-ass clubs everywhere else. I mean, you knew there was clubs everywhere else, but you never really went to their websites or like looked them up because it was just like, who cares? I'm in Miami. Like, I'm at some of the best clubs in the world, right? That was kind of the mentality at the time, I want to say. Not just me, but overall. So he emails me again, and this is one of the things about Lewis, who's been my booking agent ever since this happened. He's very persistent, and I always get one of two things. It's like he's either too aggressive or he's exactly what I need at 3 a.m. when I hit him up, because he's always on his game, and he'll get me exactly what I need done when I need it done. And that's like coming from potentially bookers and other people, and that's like the exact kind of person you want in your corner. Somebody that's going to be aggressive when it comes to pushing you as a product. So when that kind of thing comes up, it's like I can't tell him to not be aggressive. Like he's selling you me. What do you want me to tell him, to tone it down? Just buy, right? So he emails me again. He's like, yo, his persistence is really what I was like, man, this guy came back. Okay. So I emailed him back, and I was like, look, the first business card, the first email, the first person I get from this point that wants to book me out of town, I'll send to you, and you can field it. You can get the deal done, and we'll see how that goes. And then from there, we'll figure it out. Miami was on fire, man. I was getting a business card every week, multiple times a week from everywhere. This guy had seen my MySpace page from Switzerland, and he emails me and he goes, yo, I want to have you in my Swiss club. You're in Miami, the hottest fucking place in the world right now. Will you come play in Switzerland? I'm like, perfect. Forward, Lewis Rich. Lewis, take care of this. I met Lewis at the airport on the way to Switzerland for the first time in person. He had never heard me DJ. He had never seen me in person. I had never seen him in person. We met at the airport on the way to Switzerland, which was the first deal that he brokered. And it was for shit money, But at the time, it was more than what I was making in Miami. And just the opportunity to go to Switzerland, my God, quote unquote shit money, right? Because I was still making money and I was going to Switzerland. So shit money, I guess, in regards to, I don't like saying this, but the tier of, or the level that I'm at now, I would never, I mean, unless I wanted a free trip to Switzerland, go for that amount of money now. Like, you got to pay a little bit more, right? I guess it's just the resume's kind of stacked at this point. So we met in the airport, and when we're walking into our first club together, he just goes, "Man, I hope you don't suck." So I played music, and he liked it. And then I told him, "Look, man, let's just do this. Anytime that somebody sends me an email from seeing my freaking amazing MySpace or gives me a business card, I'll give it to you. And you just broker deals from now on." And that was kind of the beginning of our relationship, and how the roster that I'm on, the Rich Group, started to build out, because he had helped DJs in the past, considering he had a background in this other management company. But I think I was like the perfect puzzle piece to his perfect puzzle piece that was missing at the time. Like, he needed somebody like me, and I needed somebody like him. So now let's go another aside. I had no experience playing anywhere in the world besides my market. He had a little bit of experience talking to clubs and booking people. But that doesn't mean that anyone out there can't do what we did. It's not impossible. Make your own label, make your own management company. Don't settle for something if you don't think you're going to be a good fit. Don't settle for something because you want to be part of something. If you think that you can do it, if nobody's going to come for you, like no management is like reaching out and saying, "Hey, we'd love you to come be a part of us." If that's not happening for you, don't just sit there and wait. Make your own. Looking back at it now, I guess it's because we kind of built up a management / booking company. In retrospect, it's like, well, I feel like we definitely weren't prepared, and we just did it. We just started hitting up clubs. Well, Lewis, and I started playing clubs. So the relationship worked like this. This was like, at this point, this was about 7 years ago. The relationship worked like this. He'd find the clubs that were booking out of town DJs, mail them, be like, "From Miami, DJ Conflict." That was a selling point. The city, not me, because I was a nobody. Maybe still am. Who knows? And then I'd go play the night, do a good job, thankfully, because I had trained myself to be a good DJ, because I had good heroes, because I had people to look up to that were good my entire career, and I aspired to be better. He books the club, I play the club likes it. Bank that into the resume, and then in the future we have a nightclub entity we can hit up whenever we want to date out of town. That's how it went, and just repeat that. And there was people giving me business cards. I'd take a picture or send it to Lewis, write it down, send him an email. He'd take care of it. And that's how we built it out. Now, slowly, there was other DJs in the area that he was interested in bringing on board, and we started building out the roster. Now we're, I believe, 11 or 12 strong, and I think it's pretty much going to stay that size. We're not going to go over that, I think, anyway. It's not my company, but that would be my best guess. So I'm still working in Miami about 3 or 4, maybe 5 times a week still, but one weekend a month, I'd email the club. And this was when schedules started to happen. So they'd be like, "Oh, you're on this Wednesday, you're on this Wednesday somebody else, this Friday somebody else, but every other night you're on." So when they'd send those schedules, I would actually send them at the beginning of the month. When Lewis would put something on my calendar, I would say, "Hey, I can't work this night or this night." So it's slowly started happening that one weekend out of the month, I'd have one date out of Miami. And I was like, glorious. I get to go play in, let's see, what was an early day? Tulsa. Tulsa, Oklahoma, Hard Rock. This is another good lesson that happened early on. I was like, what the fuck am I doing in Tulsa at a Hard Rock where I look out the window and all there is corn? There's just an empty field. talking to the booker later that night. He's like, yeah, the Black Eyed Peas came through here. They did a concert down the way, and then they did the after party here. And I was like, oh, man, everywhere is important. Everywhere is important. Everywhere you can make a fan. Everywhere you can make a connection for the future. So I never disparaged or degraded any market after that, because no matter what, if somebody was giving me the space to DJ and allowing me to express myself with music and paying me, then I wouldn't feel like it was a waste of time, regardless of where it was, how much I was getting paid, or what kind of venue I was playing at. And still to this day, not every gig is going to be the most glorious for the most money with celebrities, but that doesn't mean shit to me. I'm a DJ, so I like to play music. So one weekend a month, it started off with one day a month in a random market, maybe a connection that I made, or maybe Lewis cold called, cold emailed, figured out how to get into that space. They gave him attention because we had a little bit of a resume. We were like, well, he's already played here, 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 and then he plays in Miami 5 days a week. And the fact that I was in Miami, this major market, was a big, big deal. Another lucky break. Because people were just hooked. They were like, oh, he's from Miami? Shit, yeah, of course. Yeah, it's fantastic. So that's what they would bill me as. That's how they would promote it. It's like, from Miami, huge bold letters. And then little letters, DJ Conflict. Spelled wrong most of the time, which is why all my social media handles are my favorite DJ, because no one could ever spell conflict, because that's the DJ name that I picked when I was 14, when I first got a turntable, sitting in my cousin's dad's pickup truck bed as we were going somewhere to like move furniture for some bullshit or something like that. And I was like, how about conflict, but with K's? So my favorite DJ across every social media platform, because everyone would spell it like Konflict, that conflict with CK. They would just butcher it. So I'm just like, you know what? I have to have people find me in an easy way. And that's why I selected the social media handle, my favorite DJ. So these places were billing me from Miami, because it was the hot spot. It was the place to be. And we slowly started gaining more traction with outside markets. And then instead of cold calling or cold emailing, once in a while, Lewis would get a request, or I would, again, hand him a business card. And we started building up, Lewis mostly, but we started building up a clientele. And then it got to the point where he was like, yo, I have too many petitions for DJs like from out of town, and you're working in Miami too much. I need more openness. I need more dates, or I need more DJs. So we put more DJs up. And I started opening up more of my calendar to Lewis, because the money from out of town was way better than in town. And a lot of these places that were like Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Hard Rock, or just these spots that you wouldn't think, like these places pay very good money. And the people there love to party, love to dance. I think that there's a misconception that you have to play in a major market at the best nightclub at the, Saturday night inside of the biggest room for the most people. Like, I mean, that's great. This is something to bring up here. Like, I'm going to mention this again in another podcast because I think it's very important. But like 10%, 15% of your gigs, think of it as a spectrum. The first end of it is 10 to 15% should be high-paying gigs. And this is my opinion, of course. This is at least how I like to conduct business. Please, this is not gospel. This is me. The first 10 to 15% could be for nightclubs that pay very well but don't do much for your career. And then if you go all the way to the other end of the spectrum, 10 to 15% could be nightclubs that pay very bad, pay less money, pay shit money, but are very good for your career. They're, like amazing looks in regards to the industry. And then in the middle, you want that the most of it, 70%, 80% of it to be good nightclubs that pay good money, very good clubs that pay good money, whatever. So that's how I think you should conduct. At least that's how I like to conduct the way that I work out, the schedules. And it just kind of falls that way most of the time. I find that there's a good homeostasis with that. There's a good synergy inside of the calendars when that kind of stuff happens, because you're doing good money spots that might not be like so glorious, but then you're also doing the really glorious spots that might not be so good money. So you make up for it. And then in the middle, you have the good spots that make you good money for the majority of your calendar. I started releasing more dates to Lewis. And as this was happening, Miami slowly started to go downhill. Like, for every like large wave, there's also like a pullback. And Miami just got out of control with drink prices, with door people, with nightclubs, with just the whole shit was just incredibly out of control. Like, if you didn't spend X amount of dollars, they didn't let you in. If you were like not a certain type of person, like you didn't look a certain way, maybe they didn't let you in, allegedly. And it got to be too much. And that's why this resurgence in small bars and lounges is happening and has been happening in like Wynwood, the Midtown district. The smaller spots are now in control because that velvet rope that South Beach was known for, where they'd keep people out if you weren't pretty or you weren't partying with a bunch of money. All the people that couldn't get in outnumbered all the rich people that were pretty. So they were like, fuck this. Fuck these clubs. Let's go make our own shit. So people started opening up bars and lounges where everyone could party, no matter what you look like, because you still spend the same money. And that's why that counterculture, which is the pullback of that major bottle service / mega nightclub wave, has been happening in Miami for a while. And as that happened, I was transitioning out of working in Miami for the majority of my week because the money was getting to be a little bit less. There weren't so many people popping bottles. Clubs were closing. They weren't doing as well. So there was budget cuts. There was date cuts. And I was like, whoa, I saw the writing on the wall. I saw it. So I was just like, this timing is impeccable. Again, another lucky break. Most of my gigs started being out of town when Miami was starting its downslide. And that's just how it started going off. When Miami was popping, when everything was fire, like in Miami, it was just on fire in Miami. I had most of my gigs in Miami, making connections, playing for like a bunch of people from all over the world, really sharpening my teeth as a DJ. And then when the downslide started, I was opening up more dates. And this is not like something that was planned. This was just dumb shit luck. So when a lot of these clubs started closing, I had a falling out with the big conglomerate that I was working at. Some of the practices that they were implementing were, I think, not fair. So I actually stood up for a friend of mine when something happened and just walked away without any fanfare, without any. I worked there for the better part of 10 years. One day to the next, I was out. Which just goes to show one monkey doesn't stop the show. No matter how important you think you are inside of the nightclub circuit, no matter how much money you think you make that club, no matter how much you think you are the shit. I was a resident DJ for 10 years for this group. And I walked away from one day to the next. They kept rolling. One monkey doesn't stop the show. So I still had a couple of gigs in Miami, here or there. Very, very sparsed out. Is that the right term? Very sporadic. Very thin on the calendar. And Miami started taking a back seat. Before, it would be like, no, I can't do that because I got to play this big club. But now it's like, bring them on. Whatever you can find, I'm in. And I'll figure out Miami on my own. And I think that it just timed out perfectly. And another problem with working for one entity for a very large amount of time is that I missed out on a lot of other places that opened because I was just so busy working for that one entity. So places get their rotation of DJs, they have their favorites, they have their connections, they have their guys, and then for anybody to come in is difficult after a certain amount of years, regardless of how high up on the food chain you think you are. So it just worked to my benefit, having somebody that was aggressive and going after every club in the world, which was Lewis. And then we just started playing all over the world. I mean, we've gone to Switzerland, I think, twice, maybe 3 times already. I want to say 3 times we've been there. Right now, Lewis and Crespo are in Australia. Crespo went to go play a couple of shows, which, by the way, I think next week I'm going to release the Crespo podcast. So look forward to that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else in regards to the story, because once we started working and putting dates on the calendar and just, it was a slow process at first. Like I said, 1 date a month, 1 weekend a month at first. And then it just started building and building and building. So anyone that has the same idea, if you want to do the same thing, it's very possible. It can be done. You don't need you don't need to join any management company to do this kind of thing. You will get a lot of no's. You will get a lot of no's. But that just means you just have to keep searching for those yeses. And you make the best of those yeses, which is super important. If you're not up to speed, if you're not a good DJ, because here's the thing. If you're going to go play a club somewhere that's booking out-of-town DJs and you happen to get in, they're not just booking you. They're booking other DJs from out of town. And maybe somebody from the Rich Group is stopping there. Are you going to be better than DJ Obscene, Red Bull 3-style champion? Are you going to be better than Jessica who has like 10 years of Miami DJing, which is like some of the hardest DJing in the world under her belt? Are you going to be better than Graham Funky, who's OG, who can name more songs that I've ever learned, who has forgotten more about music than I'm ever going to learn in my life? Are you going to be able to be better than those people once you get your break? Because if you're not, that's a problem. If somebody lets you in and you're not as good as what they already have, you just lost that opportunity. So you want to make sure that any yeses that you get in this business, you maximize that opportunity to the best of your ability. And if you don't feel comfortable, you don't feel confident that you can do the job better than somebody else, then get to fucking practicing because nobody's stopping you from practicing. There's a lot of hours in the day to sound good. Or don't, whatever, you know. That's just, again, I just go off on tangents sometimes, and I might sound a little aggressive, and I apologize for that. But this is something that's like near and dear to my heart, and having been through this whole story, which pretty much encompasses from age 14 to now, which is a good 15 years, give or take. I look back at it and I'm like, very lucky by all means. But at the same time, if I was a shit DJ, it wouldn't have happened for me. And I don't want anyone to be a shit DJ. Be a good DJ. And now I'm going to read questions after a break because I got to go to the bathroom. Bye. All right, first question. Actually, it's not a question, but Drew. Love your podcast. Keep up the good work. Would love an episode of your DJ buddies telling their craziest stories like Excel did. An entire episode dedicated to this would be great. All right, I'll do my best. It's just, I'd have to ask everybody their stories and then splice them together. All right. VTech sends to me, which I asked her to do that. We were talking and she asked me about this and I'm like, email it so I can read it on the podcast. So DJ VTech from Las Vegas, she asks, when beginning/introing yourself for a headlining set, what's your go-to vibe? Of course, all clubs/crowds are different and there isn't a one-size-fits-all. So I'll narrow it down to 3 general answers. Thank you. Super trendy, renowned hip-hop, major Las Vegas club, and an East Coast headliner set. Okay, so, okay. So I understand what you're saying here. So how would I start a super trendy, renowned hip-hop oriented LA club? Okay, so first, let me just go to this first piece. How do you intro/begin your headlining set? I like to get on early. Everyone does this differently. I've seen different DJs do this differently. I've seen DJs walk in 5 minutes before their set time, hook up their shit, and just go. I've seen DJs show up 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes before, hang out, have a drink, and then go. I like to get there early. I like to hang out with the openers. I like to catch a vibe. I like to listen. I like to be out. I like to see people dance and have fun. I like to be around the DJs that are going to be playing music in a nightclub, regardless of where that might be. So, that being said, I'm going to answer in the format that you presented here. A super trendy, renowned hip-hop oriented LA nightclub. Well, first of all, for that, a super trendy hip-hop club in LA, people aren't really going to give a shit who you are. So an intro is not going to be working. Like, they might care, kinda, but most intros are like big, epic, like, welcome to the Epic Center, and then like a big build-up, and like, that kind of shit doesn't fly in LA clubs. Best thing to do in that situation, if you have to intro yourself and like you feel like you need a moment of space, it's like, all right, once the opener's done transitioning to you, play one record, set up your shit, to where you have whatever record you're going to start with, and I can't tell you what that is. It depends on the night, the vibe, what time you're getting on, etc. Set up your first couple records, echo out, grab the microphone, be like, Los Angeles, what up? DJ Conflict from Miami, Florida. I'm here to party with you guys. Play a record. Right? Or whatever you want to say at that time. Like birthdays, make them make a little noise, even though they won't, because if it's a hip, trendy club, they don't really make noise. They don't really dance either. They're just there. Some of them, some people do. Like I play One Oak in LA, and that club is super trendy and renowned for hip hop on the nights that I play, which is Thursday. And they get down, man. They dance, they sing. It's a fun time playing there. When I played there, now that was what I would suggest. What I do is I get on maybe 15, 20, 30 minutes before I'm supposed to get on, because I like setting my own pace regardless of where I'm playing. I always ask the opening DJs, can I get on early? Do you mind? And I get on early. Or I'll talk to the general managers or the bookers, and I'm like, yo, I like to be there early. I like to get on early. I like setting my own pace. So I've already been playing for a few minutes before I decide to really go in. So then I'll decide what the best course of action is. Am I going to echo out, talk to people? Am I going to play any sort of intro? Am I going to save like the big records for the middle/end of the night? Or am I going to play them at the top of the night? I make those decisions when I'm warming myself up. Sometimes that's not a possibility, but I still try to get like 10 to 15 minutes in, regardless of where I'm at. And then I go in. All right, so a major Las Vegas nightclub, that's when you can hit them with the bells and whistles intro, like the big, now it's time to party with DJ Conflict, whatever. Obviously, that's cheese, but that kind of works in Vegas, right? So you can have a big build-up, and if you are playing a night where it's like, quote-unquote, hip or industry, you might go into something trap. If it's like a standard Friday or Saturday, you might go into like a house breakdown for a confetti shot. Depends, again, where you're playing. An East Coast late start headliner set. When by late start, because you're on the West Coast VTech, I mean, you probably mean like 1 a.m., which is like standard standard headlining time on the East Coast. It's like 12:45, 1 a.m. And that, again, depends on where you're playing. If I'm playing at like the Borgata, if I'm playing at Premier in Atlantic City, I've already been on for a few minutes, and then I'll hit an intro. And it depends also. Like if I'm doing Up and Down in New York or One Oak in New York, I might not hit that intro because it's different. It's like a nightclub that is more intimate. It's loungy. A big, like epic intro doesn't fit. So there's no one answer to this question. It's just a matter of going out enough times and seeing enough people do it, and then figuring out what you want to do with the time that you're allotted at whatever space you're playing at. That's the easiest and most consolidated way that I can answer your question. Thank you, VTech. Oh, shit. Okay. Alan Miller sends this in. Hi, I just want to say that I love your mixes. I can't make it to a club anymore because I'm in a wheelchair now. So I've listened to your mixes on Club Killers like 100 times. I appreciate this new mix, and I would love to hear more from you. Thanks. Alan, thank you, buddy. I am going to keep churning out mixes. I have an idea for one, and I appreciate you listening to that Club Killers mix 100 times. Thank you, and hopefully you can find some way to make it out to a club. I mean, I don't know how in-depth the wheelchair disability or whatever you're dealing with might be, but I wish you the best, buddy. Thank you so much for your email. All right. Trino. Actually, wait. Do I want to read this one? Listen to. Okay, yeah, I could read this. It's a fast one. And then I want to get to somebody that I said I would answer. Okay, so Trino. Hey, Conflict. First, great pod. Insert long-time listener, first-time caller joke here. It hasn't been that long. Second, I really want to say that I really like how you started off this episode, which made me think of a question I get asked a lot when people that don't know me find out I DJ, which is, so what kind of music do you listen to? My approach is always straightforward with, look, just because I'm a DJ doesn't mean I like 50% of the music I play, so most of the time I play music that other people that are in the room want to hear, so really my taste in music might not interest you very much, but that's because I love making people dance and have a good time and not force my preference in music on them. Jesus Christ, Trino. So how would you approach that question? Just curious on your thought. Keep up the good work. All right, well, let me just say that your answer sounds kind of dickhead, and you could be way nicer because you're going to be asked the same question a million times, and if you're a dickhead to everyone, then they're going to think that you're a dickhead. So how about this? Let's reformat your answer here. When somebody says, "Oh, you're a DJ, so what kind of music do you listen to?" I want you to figure out your own variation of this. Well, actually, I like a lot of different music. I've been listening to, and this is my answer. There was a week where I just listened to Frank Sinatra for the whole week, like everything. Then there was this kick that I was on was like folk music, and I'd listen to like Johnny Cash, and I actually listened to, was it John Denver? John Denver for, a couple of days actually. And then sometimes I'll just listen to the radio to catch up on what's popular. It really, I don't have like a specific taste. I just like to listen to a lot of different things. That sounds way better. Like, be nice. I'm not being mean to you, Trino, but like, you don't have to be like, look, just because I'm a DJ doesn't mean I like 50% of the music I play. So most of the time, like, come on, man. That's like, it's such a pre-rehearsed answer. Just be nice to people. They're going to ask you that shit so many times in your life. You might as well just come up with a different favorite band every time they ask you. Be like, yeah, you ever heard of the SanDisk Lollipops? Be like, no. Oh, you look into them, man. That's my favorite band. Have fun with it, dude. Thank you for your question. All right. So, bam. Okay, so this is the one I wanted to get to. This one has to be anonymous, but I'm going to read it out. This is kind of important here. Thanks for recording such a dope podcast for the DJ community. I listen in every week and take a lot of your advice. Thank you, dude. Or dudette. Keep them coming, and I look forward to hearing your story on the podcast soon. My question for you, please keep all names and my name anonymous, as it is a conflict of interest for me. Conflict of interest for me. No problem, dude. All right. So about a year ago, I started to intern for a DJ agency in this city. They have great accounts with 1, 2, 3 entities in the city. Over the past year, I have learned a lot as to understanding how this city's nightlife works. Being able to meet club managers, promoters, etc. Going to open almost every venue in this city. Opening for the guys on the roster who hold fairly big names in this city, and learning the DJ business. This internship technically ended when the summer was up. I decided to keep pursuing it and eventually got a few bookings out of the opportunity. I'm currently reaching out to new venues for them and running their social media as well with no compensation. They have not given me a booking in a while, and they do it. And when they do, it's usually the same booking, low money, and a lot of hours. I feel like I'm being used at this point and should focus more on my own brand and try to create my own relationships. I'm working on music production and get my own bookings, mostly private events and college gigs here and there, through my connections. However, a majority of the people I've met through them, and I do not have established relationships in this city with anyone else besides them. They keep promising me more opportunities in the future, but I haven't seen much progression in the agency to where I will soon benefit. From my understanding, an agency usually looks for DJs who have already created their own buzz and already have a brand of their own. In my case, I do not have the full package just yet, and I'm aware of that. As you can see attached to this email, I have already started to work on my own brand. I feel like I've hit a plateau, and I don't know where to go from here. I'm under this DJ agency and have minimal connections in this city, which is where I want to be booked. Besides working with them, I only get bookings through my college friends and private events. The promoters here in this other city are under one umbrella now, and they have their rotations of DJs who are seasoned and established. I'm pretty stuck and don't know what to do next. I'm not new in the game and have done a lot, but at the same time, I am not where I want to be. Any advice is appreciated. All right, Anonymous. Fantastic email, sir. This middle paragraph, you have to reread a couple of times because there's a lot of information here that you wrote yourself that is the answer to your question. By the way, there's a lot of stuff in that email that I had to improvise on because I didn't want to give it away. All right, so answer. I am currently reaching out to new venues for them and running their social media as well with no compensation. No compensation. They have not given me a booking in a while, and when they do, it's usually the same, and it's for very little money, and usually you break even or whatever. Don't make money. Okay, number one, you are working for free. Granted, you have to pay dues. However, if you are looking at the writing on the wall, if they're showing you that they're not giving you the time of day, then you might be wasting your time. You already know. You're a smart dude. You already know what's going on. They're taking advantage of you because you're doing something because they think that they're going to eventually put you on. I never understood why people do this shit. Like, why do you like lead on DJs and like, yeah, just intern for me and just do this shit for me. And then one day maybe you'll get something. That's fucked up. I've never had an intern. I've never had like somebody that like carried things for me with the promise of eventually making it to the big leagues. Like, I understand paying somebody to help you, but you're not working right now for compensation and they're selling you a dream. And I don't think that's fair because it seems that they have no intention to help you at this point. A paragraph goes on to say, I feel like I'm being used at this point and I should focus more on my own brand and try to create my own relationships. That is the answer that you need to hear, and you wrote it yourself because you're smart and you already know this. I'm working on music production and getting my own bookings. Yeah, good. Use those college friends and college gigs, because the people that are partying in college right now are the future business owners of America, the future guys that are going to promote at nightclubs. Extend your tentacles everywhere with private events and college gigs. Network. Make friends. Those are the people that will promote in the clubs in the future, and they will put you in there. A majority of the people I've met was through them, and I do not have any established relationships in the city besides them. It'll happen for you. You can't rush this kind of thing. They keep promising me opportunities in the future, but I haven't seen much progression in the agency where I will soon benefit. Well, there's another answer. You need to read that sentence over and over again and try to figure out what you would give as far as advice to somebody telling you that if they were, I don't know, selling cars, if they're a car salesman and the owner of the car lot keeps promising them more opportunities in the future, but they haven't seen much progression at the car lot where they would benefit. What would you tell that person? From my understanding, a DJ agency usually looks for DJs that have created their own buzz and already have a brand of their own. In my case, I do not have that full package just yet, and I'm aware of that. Well, then, if you're aware of it, change it and make it happen for yourself. That's what's going to change this whole dynamic. Once you start gaining friends that eventually promote at clubs or that buy their own clubs or make their own venues or whatever the case might be, because college is a great place to network if you're already in that circuit. If you have a brand and you have a package to present, plus your relationships, you're golden. As you can see, I'm starting to work on my own brand. I feel like I've hit a plateau and don't know where to go from here. Well, here's the problem with that plateau. It's a plateau. Okay, so imagine this. It's a plateau, right? Like, just imagine a straight line. You're walking a straight line. It's a long line. At the end of that line, there's an incline going up. All you have to do is walk the length of that plateau to get to the next level upward. Most people quit when they're walking down that line because they might not see the next level up, or they feel that that plateau is going to last forever, or they don't have the patience or the strength or the fortitude to walk that plateau from end to end. They want it now, and if it doesn't happen now, they don't want it, or they're like, fuck it, I'm done. Walk that plateau. Continue doing what you're doing. You're a smart person. You already know what needs to be done. That plateau doesn't go on forever. It moves up eventually. Where? I don't know. You might know. Maybe you don't. But it doesn't matter. Just keep walking that plateau to get to the next level, because eventually it goes up. If you walk the entire length of that plateau, and I'm just using this obviously as an analogy, you walk the entire length of that plateau and get to the end of it, there's no way that it goes down. There's no way, because you've done all the legwork and everything necessary on that level to move up. I'm under this DJ agency and have minimal connections in the city where I want to be booked. Well, start working on them, man. Besides working with them, I only get bookings through my college and private events. Good. You don't have to necessarily just work in that city. There's a lot. I know what city it is. I'm not going to mention it, but there's a lot of different places to work in that area, that whole area of the country. You maybe find places that want to pay you and that you can play at, and start sharpening your teeth. Because if you don't have the brand yet, if you don't have the full package, you might not be there as a DJ in regards to talent and skill, which is the most important thing. And I haven't listened to your SoundCloud, but I'm going to take a listen, see if you have any mixes up. Actually, I'm just going to look. If you have any, you just have edits, a bunch of reposts. I don't see any mixes, which you should be doing one every 2 weeks, every month at least, because you're trying to get on. Okay, there's a podcast. Nice. So this was 8 months ago. 6 months ago was the last podcast, and then you stopped. I don't see any other ones. So what are you doing? Because if you want this, you have to continuously, like, how am I doing more podcasts than you? You started first. Do you want my job? Because if you do, then that's one metric. Do more podcasts than me. Then play more venues than me. Practice more hours than me. Put out more videos than me on Instagram. Take more pictures than me. Like, if you really want this, you have to outwork the people that are in the positions that you want to take their job. I'm pretty stuck and don't know what to do next. I'm not new to the game and have done a lot, but at the same time, I'm not where I want to be. Well, I could read that same sentence every day of my life. Imagine these are my words right now. I'm not new to the game and have done a lot, but at the same time, I'm not where I want to be. That's never going to change because I feel the same way. More clubs, more money, more places, more people, more travel, more properties, more savings, more insurances, whatever. I want more of everything all the time. That insatiable appetite, more life, more freedom, more quiet, more peace, more space. You have that spark, dude. You just have to light a fire with it and burn it bright enough so everyone can see it, and then they want to be around you. I hope I answered your question in the best way that I could. You should 100% talk to this agency and tell them, look, what do I need to fix? Why am I not playing? How come there's other DJs that are getting gigs before me? Tell me what it is. Just be straight up. Whoever's in charge, whoever books gigs, ask the other DJs, like, yo, what can I do better? Why am I not getting booked? Why am I not getting jobs? How come you guys are playing and I'm not? Well, we have relationships. Okay, but why do you keep playing? Like, what is it? What do you have over me? Or maybe just make these assessments yourself. Look at them. Look at their social media. Look at their branding. Look at their mixes. Look at what they're doing. And then just double up on everything. Double up on everything. Outwork them. Outwork them. That's the best advice that I could give you. Outwork them and then go to the person in charge and be like, yo, how come I'm not getting any gigs? Like, just be real with me, because I feel like I'm being used at this point and I'm not making any money. And I'm like really close to quitting, and I don't want to quit because I want to do this and I want to be here. But you have to explain to me. And I'm not asking for gigs. I'm asking for an explanation or a blueprint. Take a pen and a notepad into this meeting and be like, just tell me what I need to improve on and what I need to do to make money and to be on this roster full time and be your primary concern, be your primary DJ, be your go-to. What do I need to do? Tell me. And just write everything down. And if they don't give you an answer that you're satisfied with, or you don't believe it's real, you think they're bullshitting you, or they give you some shit answer, you're smart enough to be like, well, this place is not for me. And then find your own way, which can be done. Hopefully you know this because I did it my own way too. All right, guys, that's the podcast. Holy shit, this was a long one, and I just talked the whole way through. I got to break this up with some music at some point. I'm going to try to work on this mix, but my schedule is kind of crazy, as I did mention at the beginning of this podcast. I appreciate all of your listens. Oh, really important. I'm going to add this to the beginning, but I definitely want to mention it now as well. Please, if you listen to this podcast on iTunes, rate it 5 stars. I don't care if you write, I don't know if you have to write something. If you write something, just write your Instagram handle and I'll follow it. I'll like read the comments if I think it only shows like the top 5 or top 3 comments, but just like if you have to write something, write your Instagram handle and I'll follow you on Instagram. But rate this podcast 5 stars. I want to be, this is my goal for this. That's like, I'm going to obviously keep doing this even if we hit this goal, but I want to be the highest rated podcast on I can't even say it. I just get so excited. I'm like fired up right now. I'm going to re-record this at the beginning and like talk through it a lot more clearly, but I want to be the top rated podcast for DJs on iTunes. And that means that I think I bookmarked it because I definitely, hold on, let me erase this. Actually, I'll reply to you. I bookmarked this because I wanted to know exactly how many I needed to be the number 1 DJ podcast on iTunes. We need to get, me, and you guys, there has to be 262 ratings or higher. 262 5-star ratings on iTunes, which is not a lot. We have a lot more listeners than that. I want to be the number one DJ podcast on iTunes. Please, if you listen to this, if it makes sense to you, if you benefit from it, if you like it, all I ask for is a 5-star rating. And if you want, comment with your Instagram handle and I'll follow you. That's what I want. I want to make this the number one DJ podcast on iTunes. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate your screenshots of you listening to this podcast. I appreciate you guys posting it on your Instagram stories, sending me tweets, all of the messages, all of the emails. Let me mention this also. Please email me your questions to myfavoritepodcast@gmail.com and I'll answer. So far, I'm 100% for answering questions from people. And I think that's it. All right, now I'm going to go record this in the intro. Bye. Thanks for listening.